It's around this time of year that winter just seems like it won't end, and the entire city of New York is just a sea of black puffy coats. And it starts to feel a little depressing. Stores are starting to roll out spring merchandise, but a lot of mainstream retailers, especially for men, don't feature much color or pattern. And by color, I'm not talking about beige, navy, or gray. I personally don't own a ton of bright, bold colors or patterns. It occupies a very small section of my closet's wild cards, which is something I talked about when I made a video about finding your personal style. Men in general tend to not wear a lot of bold colors or patterns, and I can understand why. It can be intimidating, especially when so many people claim there are rules around how to wear them. Well, today I want to throw caution to the wind a bit and consider more color and pattern. I want to be inspired by it and try to think of ways to incorporate more of it into my own life. So enough with the neutrals, let's talk about this. Before we go down this rabbit hole, let me start by stating that if you love your all-black wardrobe or other monochromatic closet and don't want that to change, this is probably not the video for you. I am also not going to explain the color wheel, nor am I going to talk about any 3-color rules or come up with guidelines for how to do any of this. If you're someone who struggles with understanding color, there are countless videos that will help explain it to you. The same holds true if you're the type of person who needs strict guidelines for how to wear color. To be honest with you, I'm of the opinion that rules are meant to be played with. So I took a closer look at some of my favorite runway presentations that featured tons of color and pattern to try and understand why they resonated with me so much. After that, I'll share some more realistic looks from content creators and talk about how they applied some of the concepts we see on runways. By the end of this video, my hope is that if you're someone who likes a bit of color in their wardrobe, you'll be a bit more inspired to figure out how to go about it, but with intention and within the parameters of your own style. Now, if you find this video helpful, informative, or entertaining, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with insights on all things style, fashion, and design. For Spring/Summer 2017, Prada showed an incredible clash of color and pattern. Yes, these looks were styled to within an inch of their existence, but upon closer inspection, I started to understand why they worked so well and resonated with me. There is a lot of color, but what makes these looks so dynamic is the play between cool and warm hues. And there's also a lot of pattern, usually though only one was kept large while the others are quite small from a distance. There are bold swaths of color, but they appear as graphic elements throughout the entire looks. My takeaways? Simultaneous, multiple patterns can work together as long as they're not all dominant. You can wear a lot of color, but choose the color intentionally and have them work with one another. Dries van Noten is arguably one of the masters of pattern and color blocking. For Spring/Summer 2016, you'll note that many of these patterns have a similar scale, which is unlike what we just saw. The thing that makes these looks work, however, is the shadowy color palette. They're often quite dark and pushed back, making them recede, and much less distracting even when the patterns aren't matching and are of equal scale. Also worth mentioning is how luxurious these fabrics look and drape. They make the overall looks feel elegant and quiet as opposed to stiff and loud. My takeaways from this show? Muted tones. It's fine to wear multiple patterns together, even if they're at the same scale and even if you don't think they match. But find patterns that have less color contrast so their prominence is muted while the color works a bit harder. Go for relaxed and softer silhouettes through fabric. Invest in quality fabrics that have great drape. Good fabric costs more money, but in the end is worth the investment. They look more expensive and will also last much longer. Paul Smith, if you're not aware, is an English fashion designer who got his start with menswear. He's another designer who is well known for infusing color and pattern into his collections. I think his clothes are very accessible, even for men who are pattern or color shy. You can see in these runway looks from various seasons that he uses a similar approach. Patterns are mixed, but they're unified through color. When a single pattern stands out, he has the others recede. Plaids can work against stripes, florals against graphic patterns. You can have very vivid hues, but then ground everything against a neutral solid. Visual blocking can happen with both color and pattern at the same time. I think a lot of these looks may seem intense, but there's always balance, and layering helps build cohesion when there are multiple variables at play. My biggest takeaway from Paul Smith's design is that, again, two patterns can work together no matter what they are if they share a color theme. Pierre-Louis Mascia is a French designer who started his label in 2007. He is known for employing a collage technique that blends complex patterns seamlessly. The result, as you can see, are visually striking looks that really challenge conventional men's fashion norms. Mascia is using all of the techniques we've discussed so far, but he takes it much further. There are muted patterns against jewel tones, patterns at varying scales alongside one another, large swaths of color as graphic elements, and a lot of color harmony. There's also a lot of texture, and of course you can see how luxe the fabrics are and how elegant they drape as they move on the runway. It is such a joy to look at clothes like this. It's the best kind of controlled visual chaos I can imagine for a fashion show. My biggest takeaway is that this is pretty advanced and probably really expensive, but the common themes are here. Different patterns at different scales, mixing textures for depth, unifying through color temperature, or playing cool colors against warm. Despite how much is going on, there's always a sense of balance at play. I know that was a lot, and it's important to remember that runway presentations are intentionally styled to heighten designers' visual languages. They're not necessarily intended to translate directly to what we buy in stores, or how we'd wear these brands in our daily lives. So important to translate some of what we just saw into more realistic concepts. So, a little closer to home, I was also quite inspired by some content creators on Instagram. Blogger Thom, for example, chose this houndstooth safari jacket to start with and drew out its colors into the other pieces of his look. The result? He's wearing 3 patterns at once. A stripe, a plaid, and a houndstooth, and they all work together beautifully. The most prominent pattern is the stripe in his tie, while the other 2 are more muted. The warm color of his cap is also a perfect complement to the cooler colors of his look, and again, draw out the warm colors from the houndstooth safari coat. My takeaways from Thom: try starting with a pattern piece with multiple colors. Choose 1 or more colors and select another piece with different patterns with a different scale. Use complementing colors to finish the look. The content creator Kayvis Manzi, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and also the founder of his own brand, Manzi & Co., has also expertly combined 3 different patterns into a single harmonious composition here. A thin stripe, a houndstooth, and a plaid. The cool nature of the shirt again plays so well against the warm hues of the suiting, and also plays off the dynamic colors of the plaid tie. In general, most of the looks on his feed demonstrate bold uses of color or pattern in a very controlled and intentional way. It's a refreshing departure from the constant stream of dark and muted colors. _Dope Pants, aka Eludi, is an Instagrammer based in Switzerland who really nails bright, bold color blocking, as you can see here. These looks feel attainable to me. Though I'm not sure where I'd find neon green pants, I am able to apply the color blocking approach he often uses. The stylist Materialist has more of an outdoorsy gorpcore vibe, but I find his color combinations to be really accessible and still very exciting. There's color blocking and layering, also with varying textures. I'm not sure I'd wear a puffer under a puffer, but this 4-color color blocking is incredible, along with the very subtle inclusion of the paisley print. Alright, I'm back. Decided to change up my look a little bit. This is a button-up from Engineered Garments, and this is a cardigan from Reiss. So in all of these examples, there is a lot of color and pattern working together in a few number of pieces, but it's all very harmonious. And though you could argue the looks abide by some kinds of rules, they also just feel effortless and right, and you can tell they were very intentional in how the individual pieces were chosen. I doubt content creators followed any kind of playbook and instead went on instinct when putting these looks together. The overall lesson I take away from all of this is that I don't have to default to navy, gray, and brown. I can take a moment to consider multiple patterns and bolder colors, or if I'm feeling less adventurous, maybe just pick a single pattern and use the colors within it to build a look around the piece. And take some risks. Get inspired. Try new things and get it wrong from time to time. It's only when we stumble that we understand why. And most importantly, take a moment to recognize that wearing clothes and being able to put together outfits like this is a gift and should be a pleasure, not only for yourself, but for those around you. As always, thank you for watching. Remember, design has the power to elevate our lives if we allow it. Until next time, stay true to you and your individual style, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care!